So, some of you may or may not know, but recently, this past Monday, April 20th, a holiday of sorts passed by. If you did participate in this holiday and you were caught by authorities, you could have received a 6 months incarceration with a $1,000 fine on top of that. Now, how is it fair that you get this as a first offense for it, but in two states that literally border Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois, you would receive almost nothing for it? And that's just not even the craziest part about it. You know the craziest situation? Say you were incarcerated in the state of Wisconsin and it was legalized for where you live. You would still have to serve your sentence and you would still be in jail at this point in time. And if you don't know by now, I'm talking about the recreational use of marijuana. The things I'd like to address in this speech, three really main things. The first is the history behind this policy. The second is the problems that this policy has caused. And the third are the benefits that changing this policy would eventually lead to. Before I get into this policy, I'd really like to address the problem that led to this in the first place. Why is marijuana illegal? And in truth, it's really a simple answer to that: racism. In the 1930s, when Mexican immigration became more and more popular in the U.S., not a lot of the U.S. government wasn't comfortable with this. They needed to find a way to stop it and detain these Mexican immigrants. So it was a well-known fact that they would use marijuana. So that's what they really targeted and demonized. They would make false claims that marijuana led to violent behavior in not only just Mexican immigrants, but in all people of color at that time. And this really escalated during Nixon's war on drugs campaign. It's crazy that he issued that, but in a lot of minority neighborhoods, African American, Hispanics, that the drugs were introduced to these neighborhoods, and they were still incarcerated, demonized, and looked at. It was an excuse to search and detain multiple immigrants. This leads you to my next point in my speech. The amount of incarcerated people in the U.S. Makes up 25% of the world's incarcerated population, but only 5% of the world's population is made up of U.S. citizens. That doesn't seem right, now does it? Since Nixon's war on drugs, the U.S. has went from 300,000 people detained in prisons to over 2 million up to this point in time. I'm not arguing that drugs are a good thing, but in the case of marijuana, I believe that it's really unnecessary to have this serious of an issue with it when it's a well-known fact that it does less damage to your body than alcohol. It does not lead to violent behaviors, and it's used by cancer patients who go through chemotherapy to help ease their pain. Now, if it can be approved for medical uses, why is it such a problem that it can't be used recreationally, in the same way that alcohol is, with rules that you can't use it to 21? And it's becoming more and more of a popular thing as we move on in time. Now, if this policy did change, what would be the benefits and what would be some issues of it? Like with any drug, or not like with any, influential thing, obviously there could be issues such as drivers. There's a lot of DUIs currently issued in the United States, and the second most popular reason that car crashes do happen in America is marijuana. The first reason is obviously alcohol. So that would be one problem, is a possible increase in that. But in terms of the benefits, before I start about the benefits, marijuana has obviously become more and more normalized in our society. You see it in movies. The public support for it has gone up from 12% to 66% since 1969. Over 94 million people in the world have admitted to using it at one point in their time. If we were to legalize it, the amount of money that the marijuana industry could bring into the to certain governments would be huge because of how much support it already has when it's not even legal. According to the Washington University School of Medicine, legalizing marijuana also decreases its use in children while increasing the amount used by adults. It's sort of the same thing with alcohol during the Prohibition times, that people want something they can't have. The less likely you are to get it, the more you sort of want it, and that's just how human beings are. Another benefit is that regulated marijuana is safer than acquiring it off the street. It's sorry to say it, but a big unknown fact about how people obtain their marijuana is they buy it off dealers in the street. And if it was legalized and kept in dispensaries, there's no need for street dealers. There's no need to have these drugs in neighborhoods, and it would decrease crime, obviously, because cartels, organized crime, and other dealers would have no real customers in need because they can get it in dispensaries legally. One problem I would say about that is, like in Illinois, it's much more expensive to get it at a dispensary than it is to buy it off the street. It's unfortunate, but Illinois taxes a lot of things, so that's just one issue with it. One last benefit is that it takes away. It's a safer alternative than drinking, and that's just it's a proven fact by science. So I know some people prefer alcohol, but that's really the truth. And to conclude this, I'd really like to restate my main points. The history behind why marijuana is legal supports a change that needs to happen. The policy would currently cause more harm than good because there's worse things out there that people participate in, but the money that this could bring in and the problems it could solve outweigh the bad. And then all the good that could come from this really makes it worth it in the end, because, like I said, it's not fair that minorities still deal with this because of something introduced by the government. So that's the end of my speech, and thank you for listening to it.